Hello everyone, we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Choosing the Right Microsoft Dynamics GP Reporting Tool. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute your line or submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll be answering questions throughout and also following up afterwards. I'd like to introduce today's speaker. We have Jeff Smith, who is a solutions architect here at Socius. For over 20 years, Jeff has specialized in project management, product engineering, and consulting for Microsoft Dynamics solutions. So at this point, Jeff, I believe we're ready to transition over to you to cover session objectives.
Thanks, Cheryl, and welcome everyone. We certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day to join us today. I think you'll find that this session can be very helpful and maybe help navigate you through the mystery of all the different reporting tools available for Dynamics GP. So our objective is to help your organization get the most from your investment in GP by making you aware of the powerful reporting tools and helping you choose the right one to meet your needs. And that right one may be one for one purpose and another for another purpose, but we certainly want to make sure that you know what's out there. So first, I thought I would start off by just talking about what are the things that you need to think about when it comes to reporting to help you pick the right reporting tool. And so there are a variety of questions that come to mind for us and what we see when we're working with our clients in regards to helping them find the proper solution. One of the first things that we always look at is how many people need the information. So is it isolated to one person, or is it multiple people, or is it everyone? Another thing is are the data consumers on premise? And this is really a big topic and is becoming even more so as time has gone along in regards to if you have executives or your sales team or other folks that need access to information but are traveling, visiting with clients or at board meetings, etc., etc. And so as you know, mobility and people use their phones, use their tablets, and our people are on the go. And so you certainly need to think about who those people are and whether they're working in your office or not. Also, is the data specific to a particular consumer of that data? So is there one person who needs that information, and what are they using it for? What is the importance of it? How often is the data required? So is it like a financial statement that gets looked at once a month, or is it sales data that gets looked at every day? Because that'll help us decide in regards to what is the best tool and how to deliver it. Also, one of the biggest things is, you know, a lot of your data is flowing through Dynamics GP or accompanying ISV or third-party applications. And so are the people who are using the data also using Dynamics GP? Because that certainly can make a difference in regards to how we deliver that information. If the information is native in GP, maybe they can just get it there through some of the tools available. If not, how do we deliver that to them? Then lastly here are all of the data consumers employees of the firm. You know, there are situations where people may be subcontractors or valued customers or things like that where we need to deliver information to them, and we may deliver that in a different way than we would with someone who works within our organization. So think about those things in regards to, you know, who is consuming that data, what is their situation, where will they reside, etc. Because that can be very important in regards to making sure, and you'll see that as we go through this presentation. A couple other things to think about. Have I provided this information to someone else already, and how did I do that? How complex is the reporting requirement? Because we have tools that are very simple, and we have tools that can provide information in a variety of different formats. So we need to think about that as well. what skills do I have on my staff? Report writing can actually often be a technical task to some, and may require some knowledge that not the average user would have, and so that will help us determine, you know, what tools we're going to use and how we deliver it. And then what is the nature of the data? Some things you want to think about in regards to the nature of your data is all of the data housed in Dynamics GP? Is it split between GP and your CRM solution? Do you have an operational system that's a billing system or a manufacturing system or something like that that houses part of the data, but yet you need that data to be incorporated into your reporting and your analytics? So another question you need to ask is, what is the nature of that data? Where does it come from? And how do you need to look at it? So some of the tools that are available to us, and by the way, I've done this presentation several times over the years, and it has evolved due to new tools becoming available, some of the old tools going away. You know, one of the things that's always one of the most important things is your ability to deliver financial reporting. And so we'll talk about Management Reporter today, and I would assume many of you, if not all of you, already use Management Reporter. There may be some of you that are on Dynamics GP 2010 or prior, and you may still be using FRX. And so Management Reporter is the replacement for that, but you'll see that there's some functionality that it provides that can be useful for you. The old standby for those that are long-time Dynamics GP users is the GP Report Writer, and we'll talk about where that's used because that's becoming more and more limited in regards to when you'll use it. We're also going to talk about Smartlist, and I would dare to say that most of you that use GP use Smartlist in some method. With recent releases, the Smartlist has been updated to be called the Smartlist Designer, which gives it more functionality. And many of you also on this webinar may also use Smartlist Builder, which is an advanced tool to allow you to customize Smartlist as well. And then I wanted to talk to you about one that is called SmartView, which is actually a tool that allows you to view Smartlist inside or outside of Dynamics GP, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk about Excel reports. Excel reports are becoming more and more popular. We'll talk a little bit about what you get with Dynamics GP, what reports are in that, and also then if you're using Smartlist Builder, you have a tool called Excel Report Builder as well, where you can build your own Excel reports. The key here is some of these reports can be, excuse me, refreshable reports. Refreshable reports will allow you to, each time you launch the report, will be brand new data. And we'll update as you go. For any of you that also use Excel, we have a tool called Analysis Cubes. Analysis Cubes leverages pivot table functionality inside of Excel. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then some others that are important are the SQL Server Reporting Services reports. We'll talk about those. There are a number of those that actually come with the solution. And then Business Analyzer, which is another tool to allow you to present dashboards. Excuse me. And then lastly, the newest tool in our arsenal is called Power BI, and I save that for last because I think it has some incredible functionality and is certainly something that you want to consider in regards to being able to present your data in a variety of ways and slice it in a variety of ways and really get the most out of your information. So we'll talk about all these tools. I certainly wanted to mention that this list is not all inclusive. Some of you may use other tools, but I tried to include tools that we see commonly used by our clients and that we use internally and find value in. Certainly feel free to make mention of any tools that you may be using as well. And again, a reminder that if you have questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand. Cheryl will stop me occasionally so that we can make sure that your questions get answered. We do have a lot of information to go through, so this is certainly just a session to create some deeper awareness. If you want to continue these conversations, one of your associates, account managers, or your consultants will be glad to help you even further. All right, so I'm going to start off with Management Reporter. Management Reporter is simply a financial reporting tool exclusively. It is not meant to produce reports wrapped around manufacturing or inventory or any of those types of applications. It is specifically financial data. It has great flexibility to provide reports for either internal or external review. It is really the replacement for FRX, for any of you that are familiar with that. One of the great pieces of functionality included in Management Reporter, just like FRX, is the ability to drill down into your data. So as you're analyzing, whether you're doing first pass of your financials or whether you're producing your final copy, you'll have the ability, or reviewing a final report as a department manager, you'll be able to drill into some additional information, and the level of that can be defined by you. Also, one of the nice things about Management Reporter is that you're actually not working inside of Dynamics GP. There are designer users, there are viewer users, so many of your users may actually have viewer licenses only. That gives them the ability to read their reports but not actually change anything in the report in regards to what information it's pulling out of Dynamics GP. I tried to give some sense of whether this tool is easy to use. And in this case, I'd say that in general, Management Reporter is moderately easy to use. It certainly takes some knowledge and some expertise to use. There are components of it that you need to make sure you understand, but ultimately it can be a fairly easy tool to use. Typically, we see your financial team will be using this tool. Controllers, financial analysts, etc. are most common users of this. In regards to viewer users, oftentimes we see in some organizations you may find departmental heads or management level people may be getting distribution of reports as well, and those folks may have have read-only or viewer licenses only. So in the real world, what we're producing here is GAAP level financial statements, board and executive committee financial statements or financial packages. Certainly, Management Reporter does a fantastic job of consolidating multiple companies. If your organization has multiple legal entities, we have the ability to consolidate those fairly easily using what's called a reporting tree definition. Also, a very common usage for it is budget versus actual. And also, there's a significant, with that reporting tree, there's significant capabilities in regards to rolling up different pieces, departments, divisions, etc. within your organization to produce a financial statement. So, what I wanted to talk about is a couple things here. With the release of Dynamics GP 2015, and this may be a little bit blurry, but I wanted to make sure that you're aware of it. Within the release of Dynamics GP 2015, there's now functionality that GP users can actually launch their financial statements directly from Dynamics GP users can launch their Management Reporter reports directly from GP. Now, these reports are then output the way you would you have them set up to do, and so they are all accessible based upon the security that you're given to produce those financials. So keep that in mind. There is a little bit of setup. This came about in 2015. Management Reporter is an external app, so this is just really creating a path to allow you to launch those reports out of the solution and making your navigation a little bit easier. And this is just a screenshot of the look and feel. So any of you that are on FRX, you should rest assured that your row, column, and reporting tree knowledge will serve you well as you continue to use the application. So I thought I would take just a moment, and I'm going to exit out of my my PowerPoint for a minute, and I'll take us into Management Reporter. I'll simply bring it up right here. You can see here that I'm actually in a report definition, but down the side here I have my reports, my rows, my columns, my reporting trees. I can define the individual reports that I'd like to print. One thing that's nice in Management Reporter is the ability to categorize or group of reports into folders, so you can see I've done that here. What I am selecting is a 12-month trend income statement, and I'm simply going to generate that report for the month of April in 2017 based upon my data in my demo environment. So this does queue up the reports a little differently than what you're used to if you're using FRX, but it does a couple things that are really nice. It creates a report library so that I have the ability tomorrow to come back in and say, I printed that report at 2 o'clock yesterday, I'd like to see a copy of that report. So it really does make it nice in that regard. So a couple things that I can do that makes this a little different. I'm printing this to the screen here, but what I have the ability to do is select a particular row. You can see that I can highlight the entire row. When I do that, it exposes some graphic capabilities, so I can select column, and I can actually do some graphing of my financial statements right on the screen. So you can see that here that I can see trends in regards to, in this case, salary expense, but you know, it depends on what rows you select. Another thing that's very useful within Management Reporter is the ability to attach notes. So I can attach notes to a row simply by clicking on the plus sign and typing in my notes here. So I could say salaries expense has increased due to seasonal growth. And simply, and I actually lost my note there, but ultimately then an icon would show up right next to that. So in regards to Management Reporter, there's a lot that I can do. I can drop these reports out into Excel if I choose to. I can also publish them to SharePoint so people can access them via an intranet, etc. So that's Management Reporter, and like I said, it's specifically for financial statements. So I'm going to exit out of there. We'll just close down Management Reporter for now, and we'll go back into our PowerPoint. So, so Management Reporter is a powerful tool. There's a lot more functionality that I'm talking about here, but for those of you that are interested in learning more, certainly feel free to reach out to us. And I will answer any questions you may have during this call. So the next one is the GP Report Writer, and what I'm going to say here is this has become less and less of an important tool, but it does still serve a purpose for us. There are over 600 out-of-the-box reports that come with the GP Report Writer. It does, unlike Management Reporter, it does require a GP concurrent user license because you're actually working inside of Dynamics GP. What we're finding is over the last many years, these reports are being duplicated or replaced with SQL Reporting Services, which I'm going to talk about, Excel, or Word. So we do also have Word templates that allow us to do purchase orders and sales invoices, etc., that normally would have been formatted using the Dynamics GP Report Writer. One thing to keep in mind is even if you do choose for your forms to use Word templates, you still need to use the Dynamics GP Report Writer to set the base of what fields are included on the report. So just keep that in mind. But really, the GP Report Writer today is commonly used for just business forms if you're using the standard, or for modifying existing reports. In regards to ease of use, I would say it's moderate to difficult. It never was a real glamorous financial or reporting tool at all. And typically, it's a technical user or an advanced, someone very report savvy that use the GP report writer. It's not as easy to use as maybe some of the more modern report writers. So in the real world, some examples that we might see is this is pretty common to see people adding maybe additional aging buckets to their payables or receivables trial balance, adding some standard text to their invoice, maybe moving fields on the check document to fit pre-printed check stock, etc. So those are some examples of where we would commonly see the Dynamics GP report writer. And this is just a screenshot of what it looks like. You can launch the GP report writer directly off of the Dynamics menu under File, and then under Customization, you can select the report writer. One thing to keep in mind is that those reports that you modify, when you upgrade, you need to make sure that all of those migrate the way they're supposed to. So keep that in mind for those of you that are contemplating or moving to a new version. All right. So the next place I wanted to go is Smartlist, and I would guess that most of you are using the Smartlist at least at a primary level today. Most everybody uses it to do inquiries and so forth. So it is a widely used query and reporting tool, and is very simple to use. It's really not intended to be a report writer as much as it is a query tool. You have the ability to pull data together real quickly, and you'll see that we have the ability to drop that data right into Excel or Word. We can do some cool things around mail merges, for instance. If we're going to do a custom letter, we can pull those customers or vendors into a Smartlist, and then we can do a mail merge with that. With the Smartlist Builder, we do have multi-company functionality, so we have the ability to actually pull together a report that might pull data across multiple companies, so that can be very functional for you. One of the big things about Smartlist and Smartlist Builder is that it does require a GP concurrent user license, so we're always sensitive to the fact that if you're working in GP, that we're not bumping up against your concurrent user license limits, so keep that in mind. Smartlist does give you the ability to drill back into the data, and so there's plenty of ways that you can do that. I talked about Excel and Word integration, so you're probably used to seeing that. I will say that the Smartlist Builder is actually provided by an ISV or independent software vendor, third party, called E1. E1 Solutions actually provided this tool, and it has some very advanced features. And you can do some compare and contrasting of features between Smartlist Designer and Smartlist Builder if you're interested in certainly make sure. I know that out on the E1 site they have a comparison that you can look at the feature function sets in both. Smartlist Builder does have some advanced functionality. One of the things that's nice about Smartlist Builder is it allows you to you can report on data from multiple sources. So this gets back into kind of the conversation we were having about maybe you have an operational system that does billing or manufacturing or those types of things, and you want to pull data from that as well as from Dynamics GP. We will have some functionality to allow us to do that using Smartlist Builder. And then in regards to ease of use, Smartlist by themselves are easy if you're just using the out of the box. But in regards to using Smartlist Builder or Designer, when you're actually joining tables together to pull more data, common data together, then it takes a little bit of knowledge that not every user will have. And so certainly we see almost every user uses Smartlist. The level of ability to design and create more advanced reporting out of Smartlist typically happens to with someone who's a little bit more savvy in regards to reporting. So in the real world, we see a lot of researching sales activity or cleaning up vendors or vendor master list information, because you can look at all that data in a spreadsheet. It's a lot easier to scroll through. You can pull in a chart of accounts across all entities or account balances across all entities. So there's some significant ability to, whether you use Smartlist or Smartlist Designer or Smartlist Builder, to really pull in some good information and analyze it either on the screen or in a spreadsheet or however you choose to do it. So here's an example of a window, a Smartlist window. This is the Smartlist Builder. And I think the thing I wanted to point out here is the ability to pull multiple tables together. So this is the Asset Purchase Master and the Asset Retirement Master. You can see that there's different fields here. You can say which ones you want to display, which ones you want to default. And so that means that as you're designing the reports, you can take fields on and off of that report very easily. But ultimately, it all lands back in, once you've designed a report using Designer or Smartlist Builder, it lands back into your normal Smartlist list, so that you can then assign access to those reports to whoever it should have that access. So you can control even Smartlist in regards to who can see what. Here's another example of a report that's been done that's just really fixed assets, and you can see acquisition cost, document date, retirement date, etc. So these are just some examples of the Smartlist. This is actually just a Smartlist out of GP. All right, so I'm going to stop for a minute and just see, Cheryl, do we have any questions? We're about halfway through our hour.
Let's take a look. I don't see any right now, but we can remind everyone that you can either raise your hand and we'll unmute your line so that you can speak, or just type in your question and I can relay it to Jeff. So we can take another break at the end.
Thanks, Cheryl. Okay, so I wanted to show you SmartView, and really, in many ways, it's really just like Smartlist. But I think the greatest thing about SmartView is its ability to work inside or outside of GP. So there are different license models that are available, so that you can buy external licenses that are really inexpensive, and they can actually create and view Smartlist outside of GP, not taking a concurrent user license. So we're always looking for ways that we can manage your user base and allow people to get to the information they need without costing you extra licenses. So this tool, like I said earlier, like the Smartlist Builder, is a tool that's available from E1. It is a query and reporting tool, and it is fairly simple. It does not require a GP concurrent user license if you're using the external version. There is drill down functionality to GP data, and you can also integrate out to Excel and Word. In regards to ease of use, I think it's pretty easy to moderate depending on what you're doing with it, because again, you might need to use some you might need to use it to create some reports where you need to join information together, and that does require a little bit of information. But what I think you'll find is that it's pretty simple to pull data in and out of those reports. So in the real world, it's used very commonly, just like Smartlist, to research activity, just like we talked about before. So I'm going to take a moment, and I'm going to I'll just show you an example screen right here. That's pretty small, but I'll actually show you a screen outside, and I'll be able to show you this. So this happens to be a SmartView view. As you can see, it looks very commonly like the Dynamics GP Smartlist. The difference is that there are some. It's very fast. You have a lot of options. The menuing scheme's a little different, and it's really easy to pull data on and off. So as an example, I happen to have highlighted a customer list here, and there's one just like this in Smartlist. It is simply the customer, their number, their name, their address, their city, state, and zip. I have the ability to come in here and I can scroll down and say, for instance, I'd like to pick their total sales year to date, so I can get a report that shows me that information. I'm going to go down here to the bottom. I'll find something that says total sales YTD, and I simply can add that to the list. I have the ability to sort by that as well, so I can sort in ascending or descending order. You can see here that I can drop right out into Excel if I choose to. I can send it to a CSV, or I even have the ability to send it to a PDF. So there is quite a bit of flexibility here. I have the ability to edit and put restrictions on this report as well. So if I simply go up here to edit, I have the customer number begins with, but I can add additional things here. So if I wanted to, for instance, I wanted to pull state, I can sort by state here, as you can see. But I also could come in and say I only want to see the state equal to Illinois. So here I can say the state equals, and here I could just type in IL, and when I click OK, oops, that didn't go as well as I'd hoped. You'll get a list of showing you customers that are just Illinois customers. So it's real simple. It's a little simpler interface even than the Smartlist, and it can be external. I think the biggest thing, the reason I wanted to show you this tool is that it's external to GP. Now what we'll do is, just to kind of show you, we also then have our tools inside. So you'll notice that I have SmartView inside as well. I have Smartlist. If I go to my tools, I can go to Smartlist Builder, and this is where I can actually go in and create reports that I want to create. So you can see here that I have that asset ledger that I was showing you earlier in the Smartlist, and this is where I actually select my records that I want to, my tables that I want to include, the fields that I want to show, etc. So Smartlist Builder, SmartView are both products that are created by E1, and certainly feel free to talk to our representatives if you need more information about those tools. Okay. While I'm here, I am going to talk a little bit more about another tool that it's going to be valuable for us. It's Excel reports, and so I just wanted to give you a quick screenshot example here. You can see that there are a variety of smart lists and dashboards that are actually come with Dynamics GP. You may not even know they exist, and so I wanted to make sure that you're aware of this, but these are Excel reports. There's also, if you have Smartlist Builder, you also have Excel Report Builder where you can build your own. This happens to be a pre-created dashboard that now comes with Dynamics GP. This is a financial dashboard. You'll also find a purchasing, inventory, and sales dashboard that will have key information that would be important to you, as well as a variety of other important either pivot table or regular Excel-based reports. So there are more than 200 Excel reports built into Dynamics GP. That should be 2015, and you can publish or share those reports to SharePoint, which I think are very useful. They're refreshable reports, and with Excel reports, you don't have to use GP license, and so that's very important as well.
We do have a quick question on SmartView if you want to take a pause.
I will.
Can SmartView be accessed via the web for remote users? At one conference, this person was talking with Martin from E1, and he mentioned a product that would allow for this that they were working on, but he didn't remember what the product name was.
So he talked to Martin from E1 about a tool that would allow you to access SmartView via the web. Is that what you were saying?
It was a tool that could be accessed via the web for remote users, but he wasn't sure if it was SmartView or not.
You know, that's a good question. I really haven't, I'm really not sure about that, but we certainly can look into it. If we can look into that, then we'll send an email out to everyone about SmartView access or a tool to allow you to access these reports via the web.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. I just haven't come across that. So in regards to the Excel reports, I think they're easy to moderate to use, depends on where you stand. Common user for these are a financial analyst, typically. So we see a lot of inventory levels, customer addresses for a mail merge. So Excel power users needing access to GP data, use for detail behind pivot tables and charts. So there's a variety of different reasons, and as any of you may have seen, there's a lot more use of Excel in coordination with GP today than there ever has been, really. So also, this is something that I thought you might be interested in as well. So if any of you in the audience are actually using Office 365, so I happen to use Office 365 myself, and I'm showing you this as a screenshot just so you can see it. This is my iPhone 6. You'll notice across the top I have Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, etc. But that dashboard that I showed you a couple slides back, that one, oops, well, let's see, right there, I'm now looking at that very same dashboard on my iPhone. This is holding the iPhone vertically, this is holding it horizontally. So this is just, and probably not even the greatest example, of how we'll have the ability to access that kind of data via mobile devices as time goes along. And there's a lot of activity going on. In fact, if you, excuse me, have been watching any of the news about Dynamics GP, they've built in what they call service-based architecture, which is going to allow a lot more mobile development and connectivity with Dynamics GP. And so whether that be accessing data this way, or whether that using Office 365, or allowing people to enter their time or requisitions or timesheets or whatever it is, there's going to be a lot more of that. So we're not isolated to looking at this on our laptops or our desktops. We can certainly access this kind of information in a variety of ways.
Can I interrupt you for another question, Jeff?
Sure.
When exporting JE posting reports to Excel, is there a way to remove the 1,000 line limit?
In GP, when you're using a Smartlist?
Maybe he meant JE. Yes.
JE, journal entry, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there is. Let's take a quick diversion back into GP. So when you're in a Smartlist, let's just go here. Let's see here. And I'm just going to bring one up here, but you have the ability to see this actually has a limit of 1,000, but you can change that limit to a higher number if you choose to. So this doesn't have to be 1,000. This can be it can be greater. Let's see if I can pull that one up. Of course, now that I'm asked on the fly, I won't know the answer where to do it. But yeah, I'll say the answer to that is yes. And where in the world? Oh, I know. Never mind. So search right here. This is your maximum records. You can change that to whatever number you want it to be. So it's under search when you're creating a smart list.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. Okay. So anyway, I'm really excited about this. I did a presentation at the GPUG Summit, and we were talking about Office 365, and I think this is a great a way that we can use Office 365 and be able to give more visibility into data. I also just wanted to show you a quick screen of the Excel report writer because the Excel report writer looks very much like the report writer, the Smartlist report writer in regards to joining tables. The difference is that we're actually dropping these reports into Excel rather than creating them in Smartlist Builder. And just to reiterate, if you have Smartlist Builder, you also own the Excel Report Builder. So you can build reports, you can join tables, you can pull data into an Excel sheet just like you can a Smartlist. And so this is an example where that screen comes into play. All right, so the next piece I have is what's called analysis cubes. And this one is actually, can be created, these can be created inside of Dynamics GP, or they can actually be created in Excel. So this leverages a data warehouse. It's using analysis services. And so this actually is a situation where we can schedule data to be refreshed in the data warehouse from Dynamics GP, so that when you're actually creating the report, you're pulling the data out of a data warehouse separate from Dynamics GP. So it really doesn't even touch GP when it's actually creating the reports. And so what we see a lot of, maybe you do daily sales reporting. Well, maybe each night at 2 o'clock in the morning, you refresh your data warehouse, and then basically are able to jump right in and create a report the next morning that's completely updated from the previous day. It works very heavily with pivot tables. There's a design access in GP or in Excel, like I talked about. You have the ability to drill down on your data, and these reports can also be published to SharePoint. So any of you out in the audience using SharePoint certainly know that this can be done. This is an example of Analysis Cube's results. So what I did, and this is a little hard to see, but my pivot table fields are off to the right here. I'm able to pick from any of the fields. There are 7 predefined cubes that are available. There's sales, there's receivables, there's purchasing, there's payables, there's financial, there's analytical accounting, and there's inventory. And so you pick the cube, and then you have a number of predefined records that you can select from to create your report. So what I did is I created a filter so that I can filter this report by year. I created a columns. I wanted to see sales across months. I created rows, and my first row was I wanted to see items by item class, and then underneath that I wanted to see what customers purchased those items. And so I can actually drill down and see all the items within the item class, and I can see the customers that purchased that. And so I can slice and dice my data. I can make changes to the year, to the month, to the items, to the customers, all within this spreadsheet based upon a predefined cube. And so that definitely is, we find that to be a really valuable tool to use as well. I'm not going to demo this one today, but if anyone is interested, I could show them to them, you know, if we wanted to sidebar sometime. All right. So now I'm going to keep moving. We got 15 minutes left. I'm going to talk about SQL Server Reporting Services, or some people call it SRS, if you've heard that term, or SSRS. There are more than 250 SQL Reporting Services reports that come pre-built with Dynamics GP. There are about 200 or more of those Excel reports that are built with GP, and there are 250 or more built into SSRS reports that are built in. The great thing about SSRS reports is that you don't require a GP license. You can actually access these reports via a web browser. They're very customizable, but I will say this, one more thing, they certainly provide you with the ability to pull data from multiple sources. So you can pull from multiple companies, from multiple data sources. As we were talking about the Smartlist builder and its ability to pull from multiple data sources, we can do the same thing with SQL Reporting Services. So keep that in mind. Security is based on Active Directory, so that's a little different than some of the other reporting tools. The reports can be easily exported to Word, Excel, PDF, or image files. And I don't know if any of you on this call are actually accountants that have had to face an auditor who says, I want my AR aging and I want it in a spreadsheet. Some really cool ways to do that using SSRS. Also, you can design reports that allow drill down functionality, which I think is very powerful as well. And we'll actually look at an example of this. The other thing that's, I think, an advantage of this tool is it is a universal tool that's not GP specific. So really, SQL Server Reporting Services can be used on any SQL application. It's not just a GP thing. And also, if it's connected to Exchange reports, can be emailed on a schedule. So maybe a little bit of the downside, and it's really the same downside as some of the other tools, is that to create these reports, if you're creating new reports, not using the out-of-the-box ones, but creating new ones, you do have to have some knowledge of Dynamics GP tables. So it also requires resources that are familiar with SQL Server and SSRS to develop and maintain your reports. So it's not as simple as like a management reporter where you really just need to know your chart of accounts and your account groups and things like that. It's not quite as simple as a regular Smartlist because a lot of things are in common English, but it is a great tool. And once you understand the patterns of the Dynamics GP tables and where the data resides, it becomes a really powerful tool for you. So ease of use is more moderate to difficult, depends on the user. The common user is a financial analyst, a controller, a transactional user. And so we see a lot of like inventory status reports, maybe some fixed asset depreciation detail, project time by employee. There's a lot of examples of where this kind of thing is used. So here's an example of a report that we did. It's an, oops, I'm sorry. An example of an AR aging in summary. I'm going to actually show you that report here in just a second. This is actually where you can go out and access these SSRS reports beyond out or outside of GP. You can actually access them via a browser and go directly to them. And so let's go ahead and let's take a moment and let's exit out. We're going to go over to Dynamics. And so I'm going to start with sales. And I wanted to point a couple things out here. So first of all, we've talked a lot about accessing reports directly from GP or outside of GP. So I'm going to start by saying if I go to Financial, and I talked about being able to produce my management reporter reports inside of GP, there's an option in this top left-hand box called Management Reporter Reports. Once you have this path set up to your reports, and then I'll get a list of all of the reports that I have there. If I go down to Sales, I'll show you that we also have Excel reports. And so I could click on the Excel reports here, and these are the built-in reports. You can create your own as well, add them to the list. So once I bring up that list of reports, and it takes just a moment, I'm going to show you a sales dashboard that's here, and then we'll jump into the SQL Server reporting reports. So you can see here is a number of reports that actually come with the system. And if I go down here a little further, I see that I have a sales dashboard, and I can view that report right in Excel. So this is an example of a report that is out of the box. Nothing's been done to it. And so One thing that's really nice about this is that, say for instance, I want to tweak the dates on this report. Excel now has some new functionality that allows us to move the dates, and it will redraw my numbers. You can see down here that we have data elements behind it, but these get created automatically by Dynamics GP and get refreshed automatically each time you launch the report. So that's Excel. And now what I wanted to show you then is reporting services reports. And these are all available from this area that we'll call navigation lists. So you can see here that I have a navigation list that goes to my reporting services reports. You can see right here that I have an age trial balance that I can mark. I have the ability to view it and launch it right out of Dynamics GP. And so in a second here, you'll see that it'll come up and it'll ask me for the details. I can tell it which customers. I can sort by names and classes and salespeople and sales territories, etc. I just picked one customer, and then I can view the report. And notice that I'm in a web browser right here. And there's my aging report. Now, in regards to how easy is it to get this to Excel, I simply can click here and say Excel, and that report will get dropped right into Excel. And I can open up Excel, and there you go. So this is an example of some flexibility and some functionality that I think is real for people who need to be able to drop their data into Excel. Okay, and that actually came directly from a pre-built SQL Reporting Services report. Okay, so there's the report, dropped it into Excel. I could also make it a PDF or anything else. All right, so that's SQL Reporting Services reports. And again, I think some of the value this brings to you is the ability to do it outside of GP, so I'm going to show you that real quickly. So I'm going to close this, and this is the window where I can actually come in, and I happen to have all of my data for this company right here under 2. And so then when I drill into that, it will then give me a list of the different reports that I need to get to. There we go. So now I could have gotten to that same report going here to sales, and there's my accounts, my age trial balance report detail. That's the report I just produced. So, and I never would have had to go into GP to create that report. All right. So we have 6 more minutes. I'm going to go into my final couple things here. I'm going to very quickly jump back into my presentation deck here, and we're going to talk about what's called the Business Analyzer. The Business Analyzer is simply a tool that allows us to organize our SQL Reporting Services reports and our Management Reporter reports into a dashboard. And so I'll give you an example of that here in just a second, but you can see it's really best suited for graphical presentations and dashboards. Really nice for executives if they just need to look at the top line, graphical trending, etc. It's available on the GP homepage. It's available on your desktop, or it can be an app on a tablet, and it's cross-platform. So you can use an Apple iPad, you can use an Android device, or a Windows device. And so it's using SQL Reporting Services and Management Reporter reports. So the building of the reports takes a little bit of time. The actual creation of the dashboard, not so bad. Common users and executive, but it could be anyone that needs access to a graphical presentation of their data. So it's really more meant for homepage metrics, KPIs. Also, we see a lot of it excuse me, in areas where maybe there's a really high volume area where there's metrics that flash across a dashboard in a call center, number of calls received, etc., that kind of thing, or in a manufacturing area where they're counting throughput, that kind of thing. So there's a variety of different ways you can look at this. And so here's an example where you might see it on your home page. So you can see here that I have a graphic presentation of my receivables aging. What's nice about this is that I have the ability to then drill into it right from GP, and then I can drill again, and it'll show me first was a total AR, then we get to just receivables, my aging, and then I can see a list of all the transactions behind it. So SQL Reporting Services, and then organized into a dashboard format using Business Analyzer, really gives me a lot of value. All right, so let's take one more second, and I'm going to go back out to my desktop for just a moment. And let's minimize this and this. And so out here I also have a, see if I can find it real quick. It may not be here. I was going to give you a quick look of it on a desktop, but let's do another thing then. As you go, I can show you this. Let's go back here, and then we'll take a look at this as an example of what an executive might see just from a desktop. Something that looks similar to this. So this is an example of just, you know, a couple graphics that might be available to someone as they travel and they look at it on their iPad or their Android. All right, so I'm going to finish up with the last tool, which is Power BI. And so I'm going to move back into my presentation deck here real quickly. So Power BI is probably the most recent reporting tool that's available from Microsoft. It is a cloud-based solution, but it really gives you very nice graphics that allow you to look at things in a variety of different ways. So as you can look at this dashboard, it allows you to see things in multiple dimensions. There are graphics of maps, so you can, like we've seen people use it to map out where are all my customers. You can see stacked bar graphs to track receivables versus sales versus orders. It tracks all this information in real time. You can drill through like you've been seeing, and you can pin visualizations and KPIs to monitor performance. So here are some other examples of what some of those reports might look like. So you got funnels and gauges and maps and combo charts, etc. Also, one of the things that's probably the most powerful is that in Power BI you have the ability to ask natural language questions, and it will redesign your map based on that. So if you have a sales chart, you want to see just a particular territory, it can redraw that for you. And again, like we said, it's available on multiple different ways. So I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to just real quickly exit out of here, and I'm going to jump over and show you a quick example that we use. This one happens to be based upon Dynamics GP project accounting data. Oops. Let's see. There we go. Sorry, I already had it up. So one of the things as a professional service firm we do is we need to be able to track our time, and we bill for our time in many cases. And so I have the ability to look at time a variety of different ways. I can see my team. I can see billable and total hours by employee. Hours by cost category. If any of you are using project accounting, you know a cost category could be a type of a component of a project, like training or implementation or integration, those types of things. Also, you can see here that we have some really nice graphics as well. There's a scatter charts, and so if I take this data for 2014, you'll see it redesigns. Each employee over here is a is one of these circles. I can decide to do this a little different way. I can make it a bar graph if I choose to. I can. There's a variety of different ways that I can draw these graphs up. I have the ability to get to certain information. In this case, you notice that I clicked on October and I got October data. If I click on July, it'll redraw it again. If I decide that I want to look at individual employees, I can pick a group of employees, and it will redraw that graphic for me. So each one of these is interactive, and it's all pulling data directly out of Dynamics GP. This, in my mind, is the most powerful reporting tool available, and I look at it as kind of differentiating reporting versus business intelligence, because you can slice and dice your data as you look at it right on the screen. And so anyway, very, very powerful. All right, so in conclusion, let me jump back, we'll finish up. Cheryl, I think I've covered everything. I went a couple minutes over, but if you want to see if there are any additional questions and go over maybe some of the upcoming promotions and so forth, that'd be great.
Sure. And we did have one note, the question earlier when we talked about changing the limit on the 1,000 to actually, you can go under Setup, System, Smartlist options, and then change the default number across the board. So you can set it for something other, so you don't have to change it each time in the Smartlist.
Good job, Cheryl.
Well, it wasn't me, but. So yeah, for additional questions, raise your hand and we can unmute your line, or type it into the webinar chat box and I can relay it to Jeff. On your screen here, you can see a couple of our upcoming events and promotions. Our next GP Monthly User Webinar is on November 19th, and it's covering advanced innovative reporting capabilities for GP. And we also have our year-end webinars coming up in December. One will strictly cover the payroll module for those of you on payroll, and the others will cover the other general ledger, receivables management, payable management, inventory. And we wanted to let you know that Microsoft will be increasing the additional user pricing on January 1st. So this affects all of you on GP module-based licensing and business-ready licensing. So if you're thinking about purchasing any additional users, you want to make sure you do that before the first of the year.